Nishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastva Nirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmaste Magi Santu Te Magi Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We saw in the earlier class the need for Vedanta. And the need for Vedanta is centered on the human aspiration. And what is the human aspiration? To be free. Free of what? Free of longing. Longing to belong, longing for this, that, or the other, free of classifying oneself, identifying oneself as a lacking person. Lacking means lackluster, that's all. Lacking person, wanting person, an incomplete person, a limited person, an insecure person. And this is what one wants freedom from. And this freedom is the whole life one keeps striving to get this freedom, only to find oneself more and more entangled in the brambles of one's own notions about oneself, the jiva, about the jagat, the universe, and about Ishvara, God. This is our very unique and peculiar predicament, as human beings. If we look around, it doesn't take long to see that animals appear to be better off than us. They strive less. As long as they are not abused, as long as they don't end up in between two slices of bread, they are fine. They are okay. They're all right. They seem to be, they don't complain. Neither do they have some kind of outlandish aspirations, like to climb Mount Everest. Outlandish already, even in quote unquote normal times, but especially now during this pandemic. And so this is what it is. And now everybody at the base camp, so many people are infected and they have to go back. Only a human mind can do that. And so this striving is because of self ignorance. Because the self is already acceptable. The self is already free of longing. And we saw how. All you have to do is fall asleep, and you see there is no longing in sleep. One is a satisfied person in sleep. And so, therefore, the self is already acceptable. The self is already free. The self is free of self critique. The self is free of self judgment. The self is free of insecurity, longing, everything. How do you say that? I just told you. Because there is, that which is true, that which is one's nature does not falter, does not change. One's nature does not change. Swabhavasya na nivrittihi, to put it in Sanskrit. The swabhava of the person does not change. So if the self is unacceptable, non acceptable, it will be constantly non acceptable in all situations at all times. But that is not true. That is not true at all. And we see this and we know this. And so, and then also, what is non acceptable to me is that self which I don't want. I don't want the complaining self. I don't want the bored self. I don't want the listless self. I don't want the wanting self, the lacking self. It's in keeping with the human aspirations. I don't want it, but that's how it is. So, if the self as free and acceptable were totally unknown, there would not be a desire for it. There would not be a human aspiration for it at all. Because, my friends, one cannot desire an unknown thing. I have a desire for what? Well, I don't know. Nobody says that. The desire is centered on something that one knows, and even remotely, like even heaven. Heaven is somehow known, partially known. Nobody has been there and come back and remembered what it is like. So we don't have first hand knowledge. But the Veda, the same Sama Veda, the latter portion frees one from the desire to go to heaven and to have all this kind of afterlife wanderlust. Also frees one, also uh, fulfills that desire in the first portion of the Veda, which is about a treatise of desire fulfillment. And what does it say? It says that, well, Swarga Kamaha, the one that is keen on going to heaven, etc. Somena Yajeta. Please press the juice of the Soma plant and offer it into the fire. Is there any is there any what should I say, is there any doubt now why the Soma plant is extinct? Because so many people kept on pressing it. That shows that there was so much interest in afterlife, because this life is practically unbearable, so we want to look for some other afterlife. And now the Soma plant, we don't even know which it is, what it is. The Soma plant is extinct. So Swarga Kamaha Somena Yajeta. So you want to go to heaven? Go to heaven. And go there and do this and do that, So heaven, even remotely, is somewhat known because the Veda describes it. And what a description! Wonderful. It says, for example, you go to heaven and you have automatic freedom from all core issues. The core issues are left like slippers outside the door gateway of heaven. No mummy issues, no daddy issues, and no kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, none of the other difficult to deal with emotions. Nothing. And so you have a good day every day. That is why in heaven, nobody needs to wish one another, have a good day, because every day is going to be good. There is no variation here. So, this is one thing we know about heaven according to the Veda. Sounds very wonderful. And the second thing we know about heaven is that you don't need to eat. Oh, but that's not nice. I'm a foodie. Well, there is a little bit of a there is something for the foodies. What is there for the foodies? You just have to inhale the food, and I mean literally, not figuratively. Just like how you do pranaya swaha, apanaya swaha. You take in after the arati, what happens? You take the plate of fruit, laddus, whatever you have, and then you just go like this 6 times. This is what happens. You keep doing naivedya, and then all that is left for the congregation. Why? Because Bhagavan doesn't just siphon it off. Bhagavan simply inhales, and then all the devatas inhale and are satisfied. Devataha paroksha priyaha. They are satisfied with remote offerings. This is what is said in the Veda. So if you're not actually eating the food, then there is no digestive problems. then you cannot say, oh, I can't have sugar, I can't have ghee. So that takes care of most of the Indian sweets. All of them are gone for you. I can't have ghee, I can't have sugar, I can't have spicy things, I can't have gluten. This is a very big thing. I can't have gluten. And then somebody else will say, I can't have fruits, I can't have grains. So what can you have? I'm a fresh airian. I just breathe. Well, that's what you do in heaven. You just inhale the food. So heaven is starting to look very, very nice. So if you want to go so remotely, even somehow, if you know, then only it's an object of desire. And if the self that is described in the Upanishad as one with Bhagavan, as limitless, infinite, immortal, all knowing, all pervasive, and completely free of fear and sorrow, is the truth of myself. And if this is unknown, it can never be desired. But we find that even a person who doesn't know how to say the Upanishad, the word Upanishad, much less what is in it, if you ask that person, what do you want in life? They will say, I want to have peace, I want to have happiness. This is what they will say. How? How do they know that that is what is there? It is known because it is experienced. But one makes the mistake of that experience of happiness. One makes the mistake of projecting that onto a thing, onto an object which has nothing to do with how one feels or what one is experiencing. Like the story of the dog chewing on a dry piece of bone. The bone scrapes the jaws of the dog, and they start to bleed. The gums are bleeding, and the dog slurps up the blood and thinks, what a juicy bone. If the juice is not from the bone, the juice belongs to the dog. Same thing here. In fact, the Taittiriya Upanishad says it very blatantly. Raso vaisaha rasaggahyevayam labdhva nandi bhavati. Anandi bhavati. Raso vaisaha. This Atma is very juicy, full of happiness. Rasa means essence. And it is full of happiness. So you don't need a contact high. And so, therefore, this is this Vedanta is made for human beings because of this peculiar predicament in which we find ourselves. And what is that predicament? The predicament has to do with not understanding, not knowing that I am one with everything, yet having an inbuilt craving to discover that oneness, to abide in that oneness, and yet mistaking actions to be the way to get that oneness which appears to be away from oneself. And all these are wrong assumptions. And in Sanskrit, we call it asambandha. Asambandha means no connection between what? Sadhya and sadhana. Sadhana, everyone knows, it means means. Sadhana is the means, and then sadhya is the end. So, whenever we pursue something, there should be a means ends lining up. The ends and means should line up together. If they don't line up together, if then you don't get the desired ends. Like catching a flight, intending to catch a flight to one place and ending up somewhere else. I thought I was going to New York, but now suddenly, without my knowing, I am in San Francisco. What happened? And at first, one is convinced the pilot error. I'm going to sue this airline. How dare they bring me to the wrong destination? And then it happens again and again and again. The whole life is a series of deja vus. And because there is a mismatch between the means employed and the ends that are desired. Sadhana, sadhya, asambandha, no connection. And the all it takes is to catch the correct flight in this example. And here too, all it takes is to understand that this I is not a matter of doing, it's a matter of being. It's a matter of discovering the truth of oneself through the study of what is called Vedanta Shastra, because that Vedanta is a means of knowledge. It comes alive in the hands of those those in the tradition who have gone to their teacher, who went to their teacher, who went to his teacher, who went to her teacher, who went to his teacher, all the way to Lord Shiva. That's why we have this prayer. सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. I salute the entire Guru lineage, starting from Lord Shiva, from whom this knowledge has come, and including, enveloping uh, Adi Shankaracharya, who was an important, he was a very important philosopher, a very important link to this teaching tradition. And then up to my own teacher, I salute the entire teaching lineage. And in this, in this alone, we see that this understanding this is a blessing. Many people don't understand this, that there is a mismatch between sadhana and sadhya. That is why I'm not getting this. I need to have a change. I need to shift my way of thinking. I need to do something that works differently. People don't understand this. And that is why the human being has a unique predicament, which is both a blessing and a challenge. We have seen already the reasons why it's a challenge. Now, I turn to some of the reasons why it is a blessing. Because when there is a lack centered on the self, when there is a feeling, I am not okay, something is wrong, and I know this is not really me. And then the me I crave for is someone who is free, someone who is joyous, someone who is compassionate, someone who is not coming from a place of battered reactivity, someone who has a lot of free space in the heart, inner space, in the heart, in the mind. This is who I want to be. This is who I am convinced I am. But I'm not able to access this because of the problems of means and ends. And this understanding is a blessing because one has made a U turn, pun intended. It's you who has turned back to yourself. And in India, we have this wonderful system of worshipping the worshipping the river. Whenever the river turns back on itself as though it is turning back towards its source, sometimes it meets with an obstacle, and then what does it do? It turns back towards itself to cross the obstacle. And that is so beautiful because it symbolizes that place becomes a place of pilgrimage, and that that bend becomes is worshipful because it's a reminder that that is where everyone is headed. We turn back to ourselves, leaving behind all kinds of difficulties, all kinds of distractions, all kinds of enmeshment, and all kinds of entanglements. The pointing finger, which is moving from thing to thing, person to person. You are the cause of my sorrow. You are the cause of my dissatisfaction. If you were different, I would be happy. If this thing was available, I would be satisfied. From this index finger, symbolizing the ahankara, first is made to bend. It is asked to bend, because see, this is something which is very, very interesting. So this finger symbolizes the ahankara, and the other three are the body, the mind, and the senses. And so the ahankara is great friends. It is identified with the body mind sense complex, completely enmeshed in all of that. And then what? This finger, this funny looking thumb, seems to come from a different source, has nothing in common. And in fact, these four make fun of the thumb. You are fat, you are short, you don't know what you're doing. Look at us, we are all so nice, and we have friends. We are friendly with one another, we can hug, and we can hold hands. What can you do? You are all alone. And then what? Then, if there is a little task, a quiz given for the fingers, pick up the pencil from the floor. And let's say the thumb says, all right, I am useless, I have nothing, I cannot do anything. And with these four fingers, they will not be able to, they will just give up. The thumb lends satta, the very existence to the hand, and spurti, the functionality to the hands. And what does it symbolize? The thumb symbolizes Brahman, the truth of everything, Ishvara. Ishvara is backing the ahankara to say, you don't have this, I have this, and I'm better than you. Ishvara is allowing it. No problem, go for it. Ishvara is lending the presence, that sentient presence, to the ahankara, to the I notion. And so the I notion has a habitual orientation. And what is that? The pointing, roving, moving finger. Waiting to just jump on somebody, waiting to just catch hold of somebody, waiting to just blame somebody for one's own predicament. Spirituality begins, they say, when you stop blaming others and you stop blaming yourself. Because that's another thing. Then the moving finger does a full parikrama, a pradakshina, going round, a circumambulation, going around the jagat, and then comes back here and says, it's my fault, I am no good, why did I do this, why didn't I do this? This is the problem. But it's a problem that can be corrected through Vedanta. You immerse yourself into Vedanta. And in one of the bhashyas, there is a question posed by Adi Shankara, who, where does self-ignorance lie? Where does it lie? Is it in the body? No, the body is inert. Is it in the mind? Well, you can say it's in the mind, but the mind, after all, is just a reflection of that consciousness. So, is it in consciousness, Brahman? No, of course not. Brahman is all knowledge and all free, and how can it have ignorance? So, where is this ignorance? Very difficult to point out. And if you do a post-mortem of somebody, you cannot find a piece, an organ called ignorance. It is subtle, it is not discernible, but it is still there, its presence is felt. So, where is the ignorance? And Adi Shankara answers the question, Prashtuhu Swarupe Eva. The ignorance is right in right where the asker is. In the asker is the ignorance. In the Ahankara is the one that has to be led to see this truth. And what is this truth? This truth is that you are keeping on, this I is keeping, the I notion rather is keeping on blaming everything and everybody, finding faults, digging here, criticizing that, beating this one up. And so the study of Vedanta makes it bend and introduced to the cause of the universe. You are one. You are not the body, not the mind, not the senses. You are me. This is the sign language for Tat-Tvam-Asi. Tvam, Tat, Asi. And this is, this is, we have ASL, American Sign Language. This is VSL, Vedantic Sign Language, that everybody can enjoy. And this is what Lord Dakshinamurti did. He taught through signs. He taught through words, and that words were in signage. And the four sages are, very elderly, long flowing beards. Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, Sanat Sujata. They are old because not by age necessarily, but to show that they have been around. They are quote unquote old souls. They have been yearning for this knowledge for many, many lifetimes. They have prepared themselves for the teaching, and they have approached, invoked the teacher, Lord Shiva, in the form of the teacher of Brahma Vidya, Lord Dakshinamurti. And Lord Dakshinamurti starts to teach. And what does he teach? Tat-Tvam-Asi in sign language. You, who you think is, has the right to categorize and blame everybody and everything, you are not the body, not the mind, not the senses, not any of the things thereof. You are I, you are me alone. I am that which gives you your very being. You are me. You are non separate from me. Jnani tu Atma eva me matam, to quote the Bhagavad Gita. The Jnani, know this Arjuna, Lord Krishna says, is myself alone. Who is the Jnani? The one who knows this teaching, the one who has this understanding. So this is a great blessing. When you see this, this is such a wonderful blessing. It's a fantastic blessing to be able to pursue this knowledge. And this blessing the animals do not have. Even though I'm told many times that, oh, my cat listens to your talks, Swamini ji, and my dog sits in front and listens to you. Dog is no, I beg to differ. The dog is sitting because you are sitting. The dog is not sitting for me. Okay. So, but you can sit. See, the dog doesn't decide to, or the cow for that matter doesn't decide, I'm sick of this dogged life. Or the cow doesn't say, I have a cow with the world. I'm off. I'm going to the ashram. And then the cow doesn't land up at the ashram and insist on being, initiated into brahmacharya. What will we call it? Go Chaitanya. Go means cow. Okay. And then after that, it doesn't want to just dedicate its life to study and teaching and karma yoga. It doesn't have that desire, because more or less the animals are programmed to desire certain things. But in the human being, there is no programming. That self is self-conscious, without inhibitions, without limitations. and as a result is totally free to pursue itself. And when it pursues itself, really the purpose of this life is fulfilled. How? We will see in the next talk. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.